Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome once again to Eight Letters Live. There is a cliche that before we can face the future, we must first confront our past. And sometimes it gets a little more difficult. I mean, it's easier said than done. Okay, sometimes it's really difficult to face our past because of there are lots of demons. There are memories that would rather forget, instead of confronting them, they actually haunt us. And for today's featured novel, or for today's featured memoir, okay, we are going to talk about how the past can also empower us, although sometimes it can also hurt us. The painful past can actually empower us so that we can have a better future. So before that, I'd like to introduce our guest for this afternoon. I'm so excited to introduce her. She is Mitos Susan, who has lived in lots of countries already, in Europe, South America, and the United States. A Doorbell, a Dictator, a Dad is her debut memoir and a healing journey that reflects her tumultuous childhood, the impact of her father's arrest as a political detainee, and the disintegration of her sheltered and privileged family life during the martial law era in the Philippines. She graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree, major in history. After many decades of living abroad, Mitos has returned to her roots in Cebu, and during the pandemic, she produced her second memoir, which is our featured work for this afternoon, a fictionalized memoir based on true events, Shards of Time. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Mito Susan. Hello,
Hi, hi,
Mitos.
Chris.
Hi. Good
Thank you.
afternoon. Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
All right. So when I read your bio, so I thought, wait, this person has a lot of things to share. I mean, this is our first time. Basically, this is our first time to meet virtual even, but I could tell that you have a lot of years behind you. You have a lot of wisdom as well. Is Shards of Time, does the Shards of Time have the same gravitas as the first memoir?
Uh, yeah, yes and no. It's Shards of Time. This book, yeah, it's based on a true story. To actually based on my life, the story of my family, but also some stories I pick up from other. It's a creative nonfiction, so there are some stories that I pick up from also the families of other detainees, and I feel freer with this book because with this book it's more like a documentary, so I have to be very careful with the facts. Yeah, but this one I felt more creative, and I felt more relaxed. I also wrote about my journey as an artist, as a writer, so and also there was like some a little bit of like paranormal incidents, or that was also in it. So I put a lot uh of I really put a lot of me in here. Although this is a creative nonfiction.
So it's a mix. You would say it's a mix of lots of things, lots of experiences in your life.
Yes,
Some are
compared
imagined,
to
yes.
with this one I was more guarded. I was more
Mm-hmm.
very, very careful. But this one I felt, with this book, my second book, I felt more free, and I it was really a creative nonfiction.
When I read the title, I thought of a mirror, like shards.
Yeah.
Is that the metaphor that you're actually aiming for? Like shards of time, mirror, reflections.
Yes, you got it. Yeah, it's like broken pieces of me, and I'm picking up
Mm-hmm.
the pieces and piecing them together. So in the end, I got to like piece them together, but I felt like my reflection was like all shattered. When I look back in my past, it was all shattered, because I really didn't know what was going on. I just grew up, and as an adult, as a mature adult, I'm starting to piece them together and make sense out of what happened to me in the past.
When was the time when you actually realized that, okay, I want to write a book because I want to put these pieces of me, these fragments of myself together. And by writing a book, I could, that this book could actually lead me to that. When did you have that realization?
Well, it started with the first book. Um, I joined a writing group in California, and then we had an assignment to write our essays, and it was already brewing in me, so I wrote like a short essay about what happened, and one of the leader of the group, he was like so fascinated with my story. Like he was already like telling me, no, you gotta write this, like really on me about writing this. And he helped me put it together. He was even editing, and that process, that story was here in this book. And I explained that how I got into writing. And he was really like supporting me, even selling the book already to other people before I even wrote it. But it was so hard for me to write it because my father was still alive. And although he helped me too, I was really picking his brains, and asking, but it was also hard for him to really share, So I shared his story, and also I interviewed all the other detainees. So I also put their stories in there. Yeah. So I felt like I really needed to write before I could even write anything else. This needed to be out, like get it out of me before I can experiment with other writings. But this story really needed to be told. It was really important.
Like sometimes for creatives like us, there's that itch nga, no? There's that we just cannot define it, but there's that itch to let something out, to release a story, to finally tell the world about it. And you're telling us that this is what happened to you, right? Now you mentioned that there were still parts of the book that you found kind of difficult to write. Is
Mm.
it because of your father? Because there are other factors that made the writing a little, like a little more challenging.
Yeah, it was my father. I didn't want to hurt him, or it was really a memoir is very tough to write. Like with this Shards of Time, it's more a creative nonfiction, so I could get away, with not writing their names, and then I could, But compared to the other one, it was really difficult to write. You don't want to hurt your family. You don't want to put them in a negative light. You don't want to air their dirty clothing, And also like when I went, so that was thing, and I was free when my father passed away. I felt freer to write this book, and not to hurt him. And then also the part when I wrote about my daughter, I didn't really, you have to go back, and pick up the pieces and then reflect on what mistakes you did. And then that was very hard to write, I mean, there were like a lot of tears that I shed just writing it, I was really broken when I wrote it, but I felt like this needed to be written. It was more like therapeutic for me.
Yeah, I can actually feel that. I
Yeah.
can feel that energy. Okay, despite this being virtual, I can feel that. I've spoken to a few authors who penned a memoir, and that's the common struggle. Like going back to a certain memory in their
Mm.
lives and trying to write it because you have to relive it. How did you
Yeah,
cope?
it was.
How did you
That's
cope with that? In the
how did
most
I?
difficult things that you had to write, how did you cope with actually writing them down and you say not breaking down or not stopping writing?
Well, I tried to. Yeah, I had to shed a lot of tears. So I had to purge a lot, but also because it was a creative nonfiction, I had to write my happy ending. I had to rewrite my history to make it like a happy ending for me. Unless like with the other book, I had to try to stick to the facts. But the ending that I really wanted it to be. But I felt good. I mean, I just felt that it was really necessary. You have to go through the hard road to get to victory. And I knew that after I just let it all out, I felt really good. Yeah, so there was just no way around it. You just have to go through it, and just have to purge or shed a lot of tears.
I like that. I like that. In our studies, in our spiritual studies, we call it the rite of passage, or like getting out of the labyrinth.
Mm,
Diba? There's that
yeah, yeah,
you're in a maze and you just had to go through it. There's no other way.
yeah.
There's no
There's no
shortcut.
shortcut. Yeah,
Yes,
you
yes,
really have
exactly.
to, yeah.
I'm glad we have this common denominator. Now let's talk about the good things. Like, what did you most enjoy when you were writing Shards of Time?
Well, what I enjoyed was like at the end, I wrote about the Thanksgiving, and then our family was together, and I felt like, I wrote about the present, like all of my family were really like had through the go through the same trauma, and we were already well, we were healed, we were okay, we came out of it okay. So that was I wrote this chapter about like family portrait where we had a family portrait, and then we all came together and we were just joking and having fun, but at the same time, we I thought it was like really really joyful, like a Thanksgiving, is there's people get together and there's family drama, but at the same time, you're together, you're united, you're one unit, so I think I like that chapter. And we were all mature now, we survived our painful childhood, and we were all okay.
There are sad memories and there are also joyful memories. Both are
Yeah,
meant to be written. Yes, both should be written. Diba? You can't choose
yeah,
just the happy memories, or you can just go over the sad ones. Okay. Now let's have a patikim. Let's have a taste of what you wrote for us. Okay, for the
yeah,
public.
uh-huh.
How about a brief live reading of the Shard of Time? Okay,
Oh,
ready?
okay, yeah.
Okay. You can choose
um
the best or your favorite passage there. I'll put you on spotlight, all right?
okay, it's not really the best, but I think it's relevant.
Okay.
Because we just had an election. So earlier this year, on September 21, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law. I did not know what it meant. People worried about how it would affect their daily lives. A curfew was instated. Only one newspaper and one TV station was allowed to operate, and propaganda was set up to instill fear in every Filipino household. We heard about a lot of arrests going on, student activists, NPAs, and politicians from the opposing parties. People were scrutinizing my family and anticipating Dad's arrest too, especially because he was a politician from the opposite party. My family was fully aware that this could happen any moment, yet we never anticipated it would be today. With a solemn look on Tito Barry's face, he addressed Dad. I'm sorry, Matt, but we need to search your house. Why? Dad hesitated. Before Tito Barry could respond, Dad must have realized it was futile to argue with an officer. So he dared Tito Barry to take him with him. Go ahead. The officers scattered throughout our home, down the hallways, inside our bedrooms, and into our private lives. Tito Barry sipped his coffee with Dad like it was an ordinary day, discussing the golf game and scores. Loud voices exploded from our parents' bedroom. The man brought out his collection of firearms and revolvers. Smith& Wesson, Colts, Browning, Ruger, and HKs, which were hidden in one of the closets. He had enough to supply a private army. The blood drained from Dad's face as if he had seen a ghost. Candy, Paul, and I held hands while my mother maintained her composure. I wanted to tell those men to leave our house, but I also wondered why Dad needed to have all these weapons. What did you expect me to do? I need to protect myself. Dad reasoned that another members of his family had already been targeted and killed because of their political activities, and he had also been threatened. But the NBI had what they came for, which was to arrest my dad by ASO, an arrest and seizure order. Uh, Okay. Okay. I later learned the details of events and relationships that led up to my family's tragedy, a tale of political and social intrigue that set the scene for my father becoming a target of the Marcos region. By the time the NBI arrived at our door. My father had lost a brother to an assassination that many people suspected had been meant for him. So, this was the political climate in the Philippines during the Marcos regime. In the 1960s, widespread corruption existed. Polls were bought, ballots rigged, and voters were threatened and suppressed at gunpoint. It was with this backdrop that Dad decided to run for Congress in 1965 and again in 1969 against incumbent Congressman Raymond David. So, yeah, I don't hear you, Chris.
Oops, sorry.
Oh,
I felt the tension, and I
yeah.
could, yeah, I was about to cry.
Oh, thank you. It was
I
a
could
day I
actually.
really never forgot because I was 12 years old
Mm-hmm,
when all of this happened and I saw them, arresting my dad. So
mm-hmm.
that was just an imprint that I carried with me my whole life.
Yeah, some things you never forget, and in the
Yeah.
eyes of a child, in the eyes of a child, yes.
Yeah. I was 12 years old then, like an adolescent, just figuring out what life was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I've heard of stories, and all I could do was, of course, that was way before I was born, but I could
Mm,
only imagine what it was like, you know. And well, you mentioned that you chose that passage because it's relevant. When you wrote this,
yeah.
didn't you feel scared or anything? Like if you tell your story about martial law, didn't you feel like you'd become the target like your father was in his time?
Yeah, actually, I was very scared. That's why it took me 10 years to write this book. I was
Mm-hmm.
scared because there's still like many politicians that are still alive, and I was even scared I could be banned from Cebu because
Yes.
I can't help writing. Like, I have to write. I cannot like cover their names because it was relevant to my story,
Mm-hmm.
like Osmanias are still very powerful and political in Cebu. Although I got their backing. Senator Serge Osmania, he affirmed or confirmed my story. So that was good. But still, I was so scared. That's why I waited till, my dad passed. I didn't want to hurt him or I felt free to write it after my dad passed, but I felt like I needed to write it. Whatever happens to me, I just felt like I needed to put it out. And then, also for dad's sake, I felt like I didn't want him to languish in prison for 4.5 years and then
Mm-hmm.
he's gone. The story's never told. So I felt it was really important to write this as part of Philippine history,
Yeah.
and that's the history of my family and also for my daughter and for like for my nieces and nephews and my future grandchildren. I felt I needed to write it whatever happens. So it's there.
Only through writing these stories can we actually have a clear grasp of our history. There's
Yeah.
history written in papers, written in books, but there's also oral history. There's history that came from real people. Like your life, like what you experienced when you were young. And thank you, Mitos, for sharing your story. You're so brave. You're so brave. It took you 1 decade to complete this. Wow. Wow.
Well, because of the
Mm-hmm,
fear
mm-hmm.
that but it happened. I met a friend. She just helped me. She's a writer, an author, and editor, and she just like helped me get it out of there, without even charging me a fortune. So that helped. So it was meant to be.
It's really something that people like me, like the younger set now, should read. It's a reading material for if you want to know more about what happened during the time, and of course if you want to learn how to write a memoir, which brings us to the next section, the next segment. Can you cite your um top three tips for authors who want to venture into memoir writing?
Oh, well, Well, a lot of research still, even if you remember something, you really believe that you remember something, but still you have to verify.
Yes.
So that's a lot of research, and then just a lot of writing and rewriting, and also what else? Um, well, that really helped me, and of course, the editing and just talking to people, like if the memoir, it's really a lot of meditation too, like to help you remember, because it's really like there are things that you remember, but there are a lot of things that you forget too. So yeah, and then just be cautious too. So I feel freer with if it's a creative nonfiction, but the others like nonfiction, you could be sued. So you're really crossing or a very dangerous line. So you have to be very, very cautious and careful. you know
I wrote them down. Okay, so for everybody to follow. All right. So verify your facts. Rewrite, rewrite, rewrite. And
yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Sometimes we forget, like if we're writing about what happened was 20 years ago. Sometimes it just gets blurry, and we just have to. Sometimes what how we remember things is different from what actually happened. So we also need people to verify it, like what you did, right? You actually
Yeah.
ask people to verify your story. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Mitos. Can you show us the book again? All right,
um,
here is the
it's
book.
a Shards of
Yes,
Time. Yeah.
Shards of Time. For how much can we buy this?
Oh, this is available in 8 letters. It's 600 pesos.
600
Yeah.
pesos
Yeah.
for you. Well, I think it's available at the publishing house, right?
Yes, it's available at the
Yes, the
publishing house.
publishing house
Yeah.
which just opened last Friday. If you're in Cebu,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you,
Yeah.
congratulations, Cindy. Yes, if you're
Congratulations,
in
Cindy. Thank you,
Cebu,
Cindy. Yeah.
Thank you also, Mitos. If guys, if you're in Cebu, you can get a copy, grab a copy, okay, and of course, grab some coffee na rin. Grab some coffee and pasta, okay, from the publishing
And wine and
house, and
cocktails.
wine, yes, cocktails. But if you're not in Cebu, if you're in from elsewhere, you can maybe we can have it shipped. If that's doable, no, we can have it shipped. We can order from 8 letters, and then we'll
Yes.
take care of the shipping and stuff. Thank you so much, Mitos. Medyo
Thank you so
bitin.
much, Chris.
Thank you, medyo bitin. I really want to know more about your story, but I guess I'll just have to buy the book. I'll just have to buy the book. Okay. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you again. I hope to read more of your stories again. Um, no joke. I really got teary eyed kanina. Just listening to your story. So how much more if I would get to read the entire memoir. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Chris. Okay.
Okay. Thank you
Bye.
guys for
Thank you,
watching.
Cindy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye everyone. See you
Bye.
tomorrow.